Good morning.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
I just got out of the shower, so I have wet
Yes,
hair.
yes. First thing Monday morning.
First thing
Awesome.
Monday morning. Yeah,
Fire.
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, holiday Susan.
Holiday
The
Susan.
holiday Susan is fast approaching. Yes,
Can we
that's
get a
how it's
sweater
going.
that says
That's how
it's
it's
the
going.
holiday Susan?
It would only be better if my name was actually Susan and I wasn't
Yes.
quite so fuzzy. So there you go. This is how I'm feeling this morning.
Like her camera is extremely fuzzy. But this has been an ongoing issue. I don't understand why, because we have the same camera. We bought the same camera when we started this podcast.
Yeah, I
And
swear it's the lighting in this place because there isn't a lot, and
I don't
especially because
know.
it's still dark out. So it's all like,
It's dark here.
I know, but I don't know. You have you.
I don't know. I've done recordings in lots of different rooms and in different houses, and I've never had that same problem that you have. And you even returned it, didn't you?
I
And got
did.
it.
This is my like third camera.
Something's wonky. It's weird. Doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
no,
Anyway, the
but
people who
anyhow,
are listening don't have to look
don't
at your
have to deal
fuzzy
with it.
face.
And trust me, on a Monday morning, a fuzzy face isn't a horrible thing.
All right, whatever. Your face is beautiful.
Oh, you are much too kind, my dear. But
Sure, that's me.
anyhow,
Kind.
yeah.
I call it as I see it. That's how it is.
Well, it's
Anyway,
always done with kindness. So
oh yeah, I
there you go.
try.
Yeah.
So our last episode of season three.
Can you believe it already?
It's weird. It seems like we just started season three, but really thinking back, all the things that we have done in the last few months, we had so many scrap recap episodes. We had amazing interviews with a lot of people from season nine, and also interviews with other people from other parts of the baking franchise and all over the world. So yeah, and different
Aren't we
shows. I
lucky?
mean, yeah,
We're
it's
so lucky.
it's
Yeah.
quite amazing that we managed to make this happen, and now we're going to
Yes.
be going on to season four. But first, a break.
We
And
do have a nice little holiday break. And before we go on holiday break, we have such an incredible episode to finish off season
Mhm.
three.
Yeah, very excited about this episode. When you first told me that you and Loic were getting this set up, I was so excited. It was funny because I didn't even realize that Peter was the person that we were going to be interviewing from the British Bake Off. And then it was literally, I think, 2 days before, and I went, wait, Peter?
I remember your text, and I'm like, who did you think I was talking about?
I don't know. I just think I was like, okay, Christina booked somebody. We're gonna have an interview. It'll be great. I'll just, learn a little bit more about them because we're gonna be talking to them.
Too funny.
And then to talk to Laura, who was just awesome. So I haven't been able to see that season of the Great Australian Bake Off, but I mean, it's always so difficult trying to find these different parts of the franchise all over the
Mhm.
place when we're in Canada. But talking to her, she was just so lovely. And
What
then
a
the
sweetheart.
dynamic between the three of them, right?
Well, they have that common bond of the,
A cake plate.
of a, well, yes, a cake plate, being able to have bake their way while making it onto the show. They all have different experiences leading up into that tent.
Mhm.
And the other common thread is they're just incredibly kind, gracious, wonderful, wonderful human beings that
And
we were
fun.
so lucky to be part of the conversation. It was like being a fly on the wall when
I
they were
know.
chatting about everything. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And get your notebooks ready, people, because
Mhm.
this episode is jam-packed full of mega baking scraps sprinkled through it all. Just like Christmas, all the sparkles, all the baking scraps coming at you from here, there, and
Especially,
everywhere.
especially if you want to be on the show, one of the
Absolutely.
shows, one of the Bake Off franchise shows, because yeah, they have all the experience, all the tips and tricks. You know, we are so lucky that we get to talk to all these people and get all those little tidbits of information. Anybody who listens to our episodes gets the same, great information, but we've been here for all of them. We've been able to talk to all of these people, and we can still send them little messages once in a while. Hey, what do I do about this?
Right.
It's pretty amazing. So
It's like where, you know, second cousin three times
I was
removed.
going to say the ugly cousin.
I was gonna say ugly cousin. I'm like, I think I've used that one before, but yeah, exactly. It's kind of like being that like annoying like little brother or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
You're like, hi, it's
It's
me. I
us.
I can't remember how to do a French buttercream.
Exactly. Could you remind me again on what those ratios were? What
Yeah,
did you
exactly.
use? What was
Exactly.
that? Yeah.
Actually, I had troubles with my macarons yesterday, as I was telling you, because I'm going to have my Christmas ebook that's coming out with
Yes.
some Christmas recipes.
So excited.
And I love my gingerbread macaron recipe with rum and eggnog filling. And I've had beautiful results with it before. And then yesterday I was like, two batches, still didn't get feet, cracked tops. I was like, what the heck is happening? So I start talking to Rita,
Hmm.
and do you know what she said, Christina?
Hmm.
She said, what does Christina say about it?
Oh,
Because and she actually, oh, let me find her exact words because
that's too way too generous and kind,
right?
Rita. Thank you.
She says,
Oh, wow.
what does Christina think? Because she is the macaron maker I want to be when I grow up.
Oh my goodness. Seriously?
Right? Yeah. So I said,
That's
oh, now we'll
way
make
too
her
kind.
smile.
Wow, wow. Well, yeah, well, I see what Rita does, and she makes beautiful macarons and beautiful bakes, and
Yes.
so wow. Well, Rita,
Yeah.
if you're out there listening, thank you very much. That means the world to me, and
We knew it
yeah,
would.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's that's very, very kind praise.
Mhm. Yep.
Probably not
And I have you at
not
my
deserved.
fingertips.
Well, I'm happy to help. I mean, good God, I remember my macaron journey in the early days, and still, I mean, macarons are probably one of the finickiest things that you could actually
Mhm.
make. And even if you think you've got it, there's so many other factors that come into
It's
play
so
with.
true.
So it's like
I know.
there's enough there though, like the more you make them, it's like
Yeah.
anything that you do,
Yeah.
the more you do it, the
Mhm.
better you get each time out. And everybody's oven is so completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's air temperature, humidity
And the
levels in
humidity
their
was bad
homes.
yesterday.
Yeah,
So do you think I should still include the recipe?
I think you absolutely 100% should,
Okay.
because
Okay.
I think the as long as your base recipe is one that is, your shell recipe is one of those that is generally consistent, and maybe you
Generally.
have some challenges. But I saw the macarons that you posted, and I saw little feet there. They weren't
Mm,
as defined, but I did see you did get some rise. So
okay. All right.
I don't think,
Okay.
and
They
you
were
know
not.
what? Taste trumps everything,
The
to be
taste,
honest with you.
man, these gingerbread macarons, like there's so much flavor in the shells. And
Oh,
that's one of the things that I really like is to have a
yeah.
flavorful shell.
Yeah.
And then don't get me
And then the
started.
filling.
Don't get me started. Well, do get me started. So I have it done so that you're using the whites of the egg for the shells and then a French buttercream for the filling. So you're
Beautiful.
using the yolks.
I love,
Anyway, my
I love,
recipe ebook will be coming out soon.
yay. I cannot wait. And French buttercream. Oh my goodness,
Oh, I
it's
know. It's
just
so
so
good.
beautiful and
Yes.
velvety, and what I love about most about the French buttercream too is that if you're adding extra flavor into it, it just absorbs it all. It imparts the flavor so
Yeah.
nicely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Good.
mm, mm, mm,
Good,
mm,
good,
mm.
good. You can try my recipe later.
Love it.
Anyway, let's
Love
get
it.
back on track.
Oh, yes, of course we do have a purpose to what we're
We have
doing
an
here, don't we?
episode to put out. Oh, okay. This was such a fun episode to shoot. We had the greatest conversation with, of course, our friend Loic, who was our first ever podcast interviewee. Then we got to speak with Peter and we got to speak with Laura from the Great Australian Bake Off. And you know what? I think you guys should just have a listen. So
Yes. And we
here we go.
literally could have talked to these three for hours
Oh
on
my
end.
goodness. Yeah, no. We
So
could have, and which is why we have to stop ourselves even from talking together. So,
exactly.
all
You can
right.
only imagine how that conversation went.
Yes.
But anyway,
Everybody, please welcome Peter Sawkins, Loic. Oh no, Loic. I'm not going to
Loic.
say his last name.
Everybody
Our,
knows
our
Loic.
pal Loic and Laura Fu from the Great Australian Bake Off. Welcome.
Welcome. What an honor and pleasure it is to have all of all of you guys here. Like, it's just so incredible. We might be fangirling a little over all of you because, in the presence of greatness, we crumble.
Yeah, we crumble. Somebody else is
The
going to have to host because we're
giddiness.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all just going to be sitting here going, I can't believe we're talking to Peter and Laura and Loic all at the same time.
Once again, welcome to all three of you. We are so excited to have this international winner circle conversation, and grateful that we're able to manage to make it for all the different time zones that we're taking
Yes.
into account. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, it's no mean feat to connect literal corners of the globe. So well done.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you to Loic for helping facilitate it all as well, and herding all of us cats to get coordinated. And at one day, I know there was a little bit of finagling going on and trying to make it all work. So we so appreciate you guys fitting us in for within your busy schedules and at all times, because Loic, I know you're in our time zone. We're around noon where we are, Pacific Standard Time, and Peter, you're
On the 17th.
Yeah, on the 17th. We are, because Laura, I think you're on the 18th right now.
Yep. It's 7:30 in the morning, so this is pre-work for me on the 18th. So yeah.
Awesome. And then Peter, it's kind of like it's in the evening for you there.
8:30 p.m. So a very gentle time for me. I think Laura's had the short straw very early.
Well, thank
No, that's
you.
all right.
Good start for the
Happy
day,
to,
I hope.
happy to make it work. Yeah, exactly. Great start to the day. Lovely conversation. And yeah, early riser anyway. So you caught me at a good time.
Oh,
Fantastic.
wonderful.
That's
Well, thank you
great.
for making it work. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, we
So,
do.
yeah. So today we're crossing continents and baking traditions and bringing together three champions of the Bake Off spinoff, or the original spinoff, or the original
The
Bake Off.
franchise.
And then, yes, and then two other subsequent Bake Offs. So today we have Peter Sawkins, who is the youngest winner of Great British Bake Off in 2020. I think that was season 11. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Awesome. And then Laura
there's
Fu,
mix-ups with the number.
Laura Fu, who won season 6 in 2023 of the Great Australian Bake Off. And of course, our homegrown BC boy, Loïc Fauteux-Goulet. And he is the winner of season 7 in 2023 as well of the Great Canadian Baking Show. So welcome to all three of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So we're so super excited, honestly.
Very excited. It's a little bit of a different format for us to have three guests at once. So we're hoping that there's not too much overlap with chatting and everything, and that we're going to be able to ask all the questions that we want to ask. But hey, it's a work in progress, and we're just very excited to be trying it out. So
yeah. And think of it as having a nice conversation over coffee or tea. And
that's a question,
speaking.
coffee or tea.
We're usually not talking while other bakers are talking in the tent to the camera, so we should be okay.
Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. So why don't we start off about how each of you started baking to begin with? So Loïc, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think some of you might know a little bit about my story. When I was not very much of a baker before discovering the Bake Off, the British Bake Off to begin with. And then one day I came home and I heard about the Bake Off, and I was like, oh yeah, it's this show where like amateurs all over the UK travel to attend, to bake. And my first reaction was like, oh my God, that sounds so boring. But then I started watching the show and I really liked the early seasons. Like there was like historical snippets and learning about the bakers.
Mm-hmm.
And I started watching the show, and it really sparked my desire to bake. And every season I would just like bake more, bake along, try the challenges. And one day, I think it was like maybe like season 7 or so, I remember like the participants like learned so much over the season, and the finalists, like you could see their progress. It was really amazing. And I was like, I want to be on that show, but I didn't know how to bake to that level. And then in 2020, I moved to the UK. I moved to Edinburgh. Maybe, Peter, you don't know this. And then I moved to Edinburgh on January 1st of 2020, just a few weeks before the pandemic. And then Peter's season started airing. And then I was like at home in the UK watching the Bake Off and then baking everything they baked on their season and started applying to the baking show. And yeah, 4 or 5 years later, 4 years later, I got a spot on the Canadian one as I was back here in Canada.
That's
So that's
amazing.
my story.
And did you actually apply for the Great British Bake Off when you were there, when you were in England or in Scotland?
I did. I did apply for British Bake Off for 2 years, and then I even got a phone call. But I think they were maybe confused about like how I fit in the whole like cast as a temporary resident of Edinburgh. Yeah,
Well, I'd say it worked out in the end, but you
it
coming
did.
back
I'm
home
very
and
I'm very happy that I made it on the Canadian show. I think like it just culturally it fits my yeah. I was
Yeah.
happy to do it at home.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome. So
Yeah.
fabulous. Laura, how about you?
Well, by contrast, I've always kind of had baking in my blood. I'm Singaporean. I was born in Singapore. Food is part of who I am and who we are as people. So I've, grown up with lots of really great food, and my grandma, my maternal grandma, was a really big part of that as well. And she taught me how to bake. And I remember my earliest memories, like peeping over the bench and like learning how to make her famous butter cake. And she's a feeder. She was a feeder, so she really made feasts for everybody, and we have big celebrations and all that. So I've always kind of really been around food. I in the pandemic had nothing better to do, and so really dived in to the world of baking, and really just like, well, I've got so much time. I live in Melbourne, which is one of the cities that had the longest and most severe lockdowns. So
Hmm.
it was really, I had so much time and nothing to lose. And so I just started doing all sorts of crazy things that I had never done before, and wanted to give a go. And then my colleague sent me the application for the Australian Bake Off because I'm a massive fan of the British. I love all the seasons, but especially those early ones. And he was like, "You should do this. Like, you'd be really great on the show, and you're a great baker." And so I did it. Didn't get on the first time, but got very, very far through the process. And that was in 2020, 21. And the exec producer called me and said, like, please apply again next year. Like, I'd love to have you on. So I took that next year gap to train basically for the Bake Off. So I was like, if I was on the show, hypothetically, what would I need to be able to do, or what would I need
Yeah.
to try? So I was making all sorts of crazy things like viennoiserie. I was like making sfogliatelle on like a random Wednesday. Like it was crazy. But it was really, really fun. And then I got on the show, and the rest is history.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And like Loic, you kind of like just all in and just did,
Yeah.
yeah, just like went crazy with the baking and just got yourself really prepared. That's an
Yeah,
incredible story.
exactly. And had some very, very happy neighbors and very happy family and friend members in that period as
I
well.
I bet. I bet. So,
Yes.
and Peter, how about you? How
I
did you
think
start your baking journey?
I've almost got a bit of a combo between our two stories so far. I think well I grew up in I'm speaking to you from Edinburgh, so Luke, I didn't know that you actually lived here for a period of time and were here as I was going through the show as well. But I grew up and Bake Off came on the TV when I was 10 years old. That's when it started. And then when I was 12, it was the third series of the show. And for some reason, it just hooked me in, and I just became obsessed with it. And I think I kind of put it towards there was James Morton and John Waite were two young men who were at university, and they got to the final that year, and John won the show. And I think I really could see myself in them, and they were sort of those role model figures that I think gave me that kind of piece where I allowed myself to really get obsessed with this hobby and really deeply into it. So then from that moment on, it was a massive part of my life. I always grew up baking with my mum in the kitchen. But from that point, I really got obsessed with the hobby and I started wanting to learn why things worked in the kitchen. I wanted to know all the technique. And then every night from that point on, I was either out playing my sports or I was in the kitchen baking something new and doing that. And that was kind of how I lived my life through high school. I was just obsessed with baking and kind of I was that guy in school that would bring in cakes every once in a while to the history class and that sort of thing. And that was my thing. And then in my final year of high school, I applied for Bake Off when I was 17, so the youngest that I could do it.
Wow.
And I didn't get onto the show. I got through quite a few rounds of the application process. I saw how lengthy a process it was, and I kind of got down to the last 70 or so, which is quite far through. And I didn't get onto the show that year. And then I was going off to university. So I took a year out and I just settled down into university life. And then I applied in my second year of university and I got on the show. COVID happened. So I went into filming during lockdown. And then, yeah, as Laura said, that's kind of the rest is history. And that was that massive stage of my life came through. But Bake Off is the thing that got me hooked on this hobby and this passion. And it's the thing that's been able to turn it into so much more after, and the sort of thing where now on a Monday night I'm speaking across 3 different time zones or 4 different time zones and chatting about cake on a random Monday night with people from across the world. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful. It does seem like, I mean, the original British Bake Off franchise is what got us all started. You know, that I fell in love with the show. My friend made me watch it. I said, I don't like cooking shows. I don't want to watch that. And she said, well, let's just watch one episode. And so we watched the one episode, and then I was like, can we watch another episode, please? It may even have been your season, Peter, that we started watching it. And we went on and on and on. And for all of us, and it also seems like for all three of you, 2020 was a bit of a banner year.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because of COVID, because of all the other things that happened during that year. It's kind of fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is incredible stories on how you ended up in those in your respective tents, which is really cool. So when you look back at your season, was there a moment that really defined your experience in your respective tents?
Well, also just as a note, the Australian tent is a shed, which is very.
Yes.
I have to say it's the shed.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Laura, for the correction.
No. That was yeah. It was you know every year on the British Bake Off, it's like so hot and it's always chocolate week. It's like ours is just hot all the time, because we film in spring, and in Sydney, which is like stunning and beautiful, but it's literally just hot all the time in the shed, and it's like this beautiful metal shed, so it gets very hot. Anyway, pivotal moments on the season. Sorry, Peter.
Are you also not allowed aircon in the shed? Is that a hard?
There is no
Oh.
air conditioning in the shed, but ours is open, so it's like there's lots of like large glass doors that are open. So sometimes it'll be very, very cold or very, very hot.
In our tents, there's mild ventilation, but we had a couple rainy days, and like there would be like rain falling like on our cookies and on our caramel, and yeah, that was not a good day for rain.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah, we had dogs running through as well. They set up the shed in like a big paddock or a big park, which is like stunning and beautiful. And there's like heritage buildings, and it's like lovely garden. But it was an off leash dog area, and so sometimes you just have a dog scampering through the middle of set.
It'd be awkward for the film crews.
Yeah, they had a great time. Like, oh, there's a dog suddenly in the shot. It was great.
Great. So
Peter, you were saying something. Sorry,
just love the chaos of the fact that somehow this massive franchise based around baking and making amazing creations is set in such a terrible place for making such amazing creations.
Exactly.
It really is mind-blowing how incredible and beautiful and tasty and that you get it done in such a short period of time as well, like having to deal with all of that, and then on top of that deal with the chaos of everything else that's going on around you in the setting that you're filming in too. I mean, it's not enough that you have all the crews, you have different equipment you're working with, you've got weather challenges, you've got time crunches, you've got all of those elements, but yet everybody seems to always come up with these beautiful creations that, like, seriously, I sit there in awe every single time I watch an episode of any of the franchises or the original.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty spectacular what adrenaline can do, I think.
Yes. And fear.
Yeah.
Suddenly move
And fear,
you didn't realize were physically possible.
Right.
And as this experience is kind of like more and more in the past, like I'm really realizing like the role of the producers and like the art department and like everyone who's there to increase your level of baking. Like when I was practicing, the food producer we have here, like it was my best bake. Like I presented my photos. I was like, this is gonna be my showstopper. And then she replied, "How are you gonna make it impressive on TV?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever baked. And you're asking me how am I going to make it impressive?" But like questions like that really contribute to elevating your baking. And after the show, it's a bit frustrating because you go back home and then you make a cake and then it's not 50 centimeters high and there's not like blown sugar on top and like tempered chocolate because no one's there to push you that hard.
Mm.
That's totally fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
it's actually amazing what they bring out of everybody. And I know that on Instagram they just had the Great Canadian Baking Show. They were showing how they celebrated their 75th episode, and so that was during filming last in May and June. And yeah, to see that whole everybody in the Instagram stories that we don't get to see when we're watching the final show, but people that we recognize from having gone through the auditions, from having talked to people behind the scenes. And then Loic, you would recognize so many more of them because there's all the crew and all the production people who are there. And just to really give them that shout out for what they're able to really create without us seeing any of them behind the scenes. It's just amazing. Beautiful. So, Laura, were you saying that there was a moment that had to do with the heat that defined your bake-off experience, or was it just remembering that?
Just remembering the heat was trauma enough. No, I'm kidding. The what was the original question? What was the pivotal moment during the season? Or
yeah, was
like
there a
that
moment that
defined.
defined your time in the shed?
Yeah, sure. So we had a technical challenge episode 8, so quite far down, which was a steamed Southeast Asian, we call it gui, which is basically like a cake. But it's made of rice flour and glutinous flour and coconut milk, and you kind of steam it in lots of layers, and there's lots of different colors, so it's a rainbow layer cake. It's something that I grew up with and I'm very, very familiar with. And this might be a little behind the scenes nugget that I hope I'm allowed to share now. But I actually submitted that as like one of the challenges, one of the signature challenges, and the producers very kindly and very nicely and very subtly told me that I wasn't allowed to do it, and I didn't get why. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll just like change. But one of the judges on the Australian Bake Off is Rachel Koo, and she obviously has like, she's Malaysian heritage. She's wonderful Brit living in Copenhagen. She has such an eclectic mix of culinary references. Yeah, and so that was her technical. It was something from her childhood that she remembered, and we kind of shared that reference. Anyway, long story. We got to this technical, and I was like, oh my goodness, I know exactly what this is. I know how to make it. I've done it before. Everyone else was like, heard my story about how this was really difficult to make, and I was trying out this for a challenge, and they were like, this is the thing, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, it's the thing. And then they were like, well, you're going to win this. And I was like, well, I don't know, but maybe. I hope so. We get through the challenge, and it's an absolute shocker for me. Like nothing was going right. The steamer basket wasn't working properly. I was like, you've got to steam layers individually. So you've got to mix a little bit of the batter with a different colored food dye, pour it into your mold, and steam that to set it before you do another one. And obviously, as you do that, you've got to layer up 7 or 8 layers of this thing, and you have a time limit, right? None of it was working for me. It was taking 3 to 4 times longer to steam a single layer than it you would normally. And so I was internally panicking because I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. This thing wasn't working. This is my thing. It's from my culture. I'm the only one who knows what this is. I've made it a billion times before. I'm going to disappoint Rachel Koo. It was like all happening in my head. It worked out in the end, thank goodness. And you don't see a lot of that chaos in the episode. But it was really, really stressful for me. And I did end up winning that technical. It was the only technical that I won all season. I'm very mediocre at technicals, but it was the only one that I won. And it was such a relief. Like that moment for me was like, oh my goodness, like I haven't disappointed anybody. I haven't disappointed Rachel Koo. I haven't disappointed my culture. And that moment on, that was like a real moment of panic. And from that moment on into the semis and into the grand final, I was like, I'm going to do exactly what I'm meant to do and just have so much fun with it, because that is the lowest point of panic. Like that's the greatest weight of, you know, yeah, anxiety and panic that I could possibly imagine in this scenario. So I just had a really great time, and I'm just like really pushing myself the last couple of episodes and doing absolutely crazy things. Just because I was like, well, I've got nothing to lose now. I've done that few, I survived it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really pivotal and very important representation moment for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. I can only imagine the panic as you come into it going like, yes, I know what I'm doing here. I've
Yeah,
got this. And then all of a sudden,
yeah,
wait a second, you're in a completely
yeah,
different
exactly.
environment. You're not in your own kitchen.
Exactly, exactly. And the moment you kind of like peep at the equipment that's under the bench, like you can't see the ingredients, obviously they're covered, but the equipment is very specific. There's like 1,000 tiny little glass bowls and a bamboo steamer and a wok. And you're like, well, this can only be this thing. You know, it's a very specific set. So that was like the onset of, oh my goodness, I need to, this is my thing to lose. It was a
Yeah.
lot of pressure.
Yeah, I bet. And it's crazy. It's probably one of those situations, I think you explained it really well, that you're relieved that it's something that you know, but then that panic sets in because you don't want to disappoint everybody else who's counting on you, including yourself,
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
knew how to make this. That's
that's exactly
that's a
right.
whole other level of pressure.
Yeah,
In our
yeah,
season,
that's exactly
we had like a bit of a curse of the technicals that you know. Like I think maybe like three of us didn't like very like dramatically like underperformed in technicals that we were somewhat comfortable with. And I think an element of that is that you revert to
right.
what you think you should be doing as opposed to following the recipe. Like
Mm.
I was bragging that I've been making crepes my whole life, but I made them way too thick. And I think that's maybe more like my reference, and that was not what Bruno was expecting in our case. And yeah.
Yeah.
But congratulations, Laura, for winning the technical. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Thank you. It was the
Yes.
only one.
Well done.
It's
Well
all
done.
good.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
can
you,
see.
I think, if I ever made it on the show, I'd probably that would be one of my goals is win one of the technicals and be star baker, and then everything else
Once.
could be fine after that.
Yeah.
Actually, hang on a second, going back. Getting on to
Yeah, that's your
getting into
goal
the
right now.
tent, I think
Just
would be my
kidding.
first
Yes.
goal. Back up the train. So
Yes. It's
yeah.
a good starting goal. We can start pushing the goalposts later after
There you
that.
go. After
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yes.
How about you, Peter? Was there a moment in your season that that kind of made you go, okay, I can
I
actually do this?
Yeah, I think it was actually very early on. I was really lucky. I recall quite vividly the night before our first day of filming, and I got zero sleep whatsoever. I think I
Yep.
squeezed in 2 hours of sleep because my heart was racing. I was just, what am I doing? Because I knew that what I was going to be doing the next day was going to be seen by 10 million people in the UK,
Mhm.
like a few months later. But there's that really weird thing, and this was my childhood dream and it was happening,
Yeah.
and there was so much pressure, or I felt like there was so much pressure around it, so I really struggled to sleep that night. But then I got into the tent after, a very early start. I think I'm guessing it's the same across all of the different series, that actually, especially in the early weeks when you've got 12 people in the tent, that's a long time for the judging. It's a long time for setting up anything. So I think, we got to the tent between 6 and 6:30 a.m. So you're quite sharp in the morning, baking all the way through the day. But I was running on many, many coffees, far too many coffees, more than it should be, a lot of adrenaline. But my first bake went really, really well. I was incredibly nervous for that first judging, but it went really well. The crew that were there, the guys behind the camera and the sound people, and the producers that were chatting to you and asking you questions, everyone was just so warm and so lovely. And my bake went well. So after that first judging, I really settled into it. And I think it's very bizarre how you're in this incredibly bizarre environment, but you really get used to it quite quickly. And I think I was very, very
Yeah.
fortunate that that first bake went well and that everyone was so welcoming and warm. So then from that point onwards, it all became, I never forgot how incredible an opportunity it was. And I never forgot how special this time was. And I was really quite actively looking to make sure that I appreciated the moments that I was in, because this is something I would never get again. And it's something that very, very few people get to experience. So I was very conscious of being very aware of that through the time. But at the same point, after that first bake, it became so normal so quickly. I was just baking in the tent, and this is kind of just it's just what I do now for this period of my life. This is what I do. So I think that that first bake going well really set me up and just gave me that release. I relaxed and I just started baking, just in a tent surrounded by many,
Cameras.
many cameras and lots of people staring at what you're doing. Uh, but it became kind of this is my life for the next few weeks, and it was a great life. So I think that was the turning point for me. And I was lucky that it was so early on.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that first week you actually went on to win Star Baker for
I
that first week as well. So that was probably a huge boost of confidence right out of the gate, and being the youngest in during your season as well. I think you were the youngest in your season.
Yeah, I was the youngest by a wee way, and no, yeah, it was very obviously it's a whenever winning Star Baker is an amazing feeling. I think getting it on the first week was amazing, but I'm not gonna lie, I was actually quite surprised that I won Star Baker because I think you look around and you see the showstoppers, and I still look back at my showstopper, and we did a cake bust of a hero of ours. So
Mhm.
I made Sir Chris Hoy, who's a British Olympic legend in cycling. And I actually got to meet him this summer through some work that I was doing at the university that I'm at. And I still apologize to him for making such a terrible depiction of him in cake.
That
But
is such a classic Bake Off challenge, number one, like crazy, but also then to meet the person that you made the cake with.
oh,
What an incredible, and I
Wow.
would imagine it would have been a real honor for for you to have made this cake of him, I think, right? Like,
I
I
mean,
think
he
that's pretty amazing.
he said it is, but he's a very, very kind and generous man. So whether it was more just who is this strange kid who's made a cake of me on TV, but I think he had a bit of a laugh about it, which is good.
Yeah, that is good for sure. Do you think that you were underestimated by all the rest of the contestants in your season because you were so much younger?
No, I don't think so. I was like, I'm just a real swot. I'm a real like nerd. I was kind of the nerdy kid. I'd seen every episode of Bake Off, and I was very I had a lot of fun, but I was quite focused on doing the best I could, and I was very process oriented. So I think I was probably yeah. You've got some people that are just super relaxed and just like, oh, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
You've got some people that are like quite that are really nervous about the whole thing. I was definitely like the library kid, I suppose. That was
Yeah.
me. I was like,
So
I
studious and
yeah, I
all
think that
your
Figure
was
out
probably
notes.
my vibe.
we like the
And
science, we know the science, we're going to get it done. This is how we're going to get it done.
yeah, and traditionally, people who have that science, or that the people that are very process oriented tend to do very, very well in the tent or shed
Ed.
as well, right? Like it's a real advantage, I think, in that case, in that sense, where you can be very, very specific and know what you're doing at any time. Did you have everything like listed by the time, or like when you were doing your bakes, your recipes, and was it
I
down
was
to that detail, or
some again some people really practice for time and actually what I was doing it during COVID, so we all had to lock down together, so we bubbled up together and we had practice days. We had 2 days of practice and then 2 days of filming, and we repeated that 10 times.
Oh,
But I didn't use most of the practice time because I was just I was very tired, and I was like, actually I need to rest so I can actually bake really well and be on top form and do all that sort of stuff. So when I was developing my recipes, my approach was it's fairly strategic in it. My approach was to make sure that I did things that were stretching, but every bake had elements that could be taken away if I didn't have the time for it and if it wasn't needed. And I think that's a really core thing to do. Make sure that you've built the recipe so that if you run out of time, you can have something that's fundamentally good and strong there. But you'll see actually a lot of the bakes that I put out, most of my bakes that I put out on the show, I was probably 90 to 95% happy with because quite a few of them missed a little element. A lot of them, they're finished quite well, but if you had an extra hour, you could finish them really well. But you're
right.
kind of just like, I'm throwing pistachios on it instead of placing things and doing all that sort of stuff. But I think, yeah, I was quite strategic in developing the recipe so that, in a very good amount of time, I've got something that's good that can be put on display. But then actually, if I've got the extra time, then I can do the bells and whistles and the fancy stuff. But a lot of times you just run out of that. And I think if your whole bake's dependent on everything coming together, it's a quite a dangerous game to play. You can have some amazing results that way, but it's a little trickier.
Yep.
Yeah. Very good advice.
Very, very good advice. Yeah.
Mhm.
Loic, how about for you? Was there a moment for you in that
Um,
tent that defined who you were?
yeah, somewhat similarly to Peter. Like right at the beginning of the show, I had a moment that kind of like defined like how the experience was going to be. But differently, it was a bit of a fail. Like during the first episode, I dropped one of my cakes on the floor. And I know sometimes in the UK, it seems like they pick it up on the floor and put it back on the bench, but in Canada, they were not allowed to do that. Different food safety rules. Um, so I
You
picked
couldn't
up this.
scrape off the bottom layer and like, pop it back on.
So I dropped the cake. It's still in the tin because like it was very hot. Like I grabbed it, it was burning hot, and I tried to put it on my knee, and I tried to put it on the garbage can, and it ended up falling on the ground. And then obviously the producer is like, "We have a cake down." All the 12 cameras rush around me. It's like I'm the focus of the of the tent. And I remember like as I'm kind of like picking it up, I'm like, okay, like how am I gonna choose to react? Like time kind of slowed down, and then I was like, I'm here to bake, but I'm also here to contribute to making the show that I love watching. And then I looked at one of the cameramen and I was like, "Do you want me to drop it again so you get a good shot?" And then he was like, "No, no, we have everything we need." And then by the time they left, by that time I had decided that I was going to like pick myself up and like do it again and like really like persevere. That kind of instilled that like quick decision making of what to do when things go wrong. But I felt like it was not a show about me baking, that I was working with like everyone in that tent to make the best season of the Great Canadian Baking Show that we ever had. And then I started planning like things I wanted to say about my ingredients. I started like writing little jokes and puns that I wanted to share with the hosts, and even thinking about like, oh, if things go wrong, like what am I gonna say? Like, or like, is there like a dramatic moment in my bake that I want to show? And being like, I want to share that with eventually the viewers. And then yeah, so my whole experience felt like I was working with those 20, 30, 40 people in that tent in order to make an awesome show that I loved watching and that taught me to bake. And yeah, so I would say that's my defining experience.
Hmm. You kind of switched it from being, okay, we're in a baking competition and we are making a show for people to enjoy. And I am one of the roles in that show. And how can I
Yeah.
be the best character actor in a way?
And I think in that tent, you can get so flustered with like ovens not reaching temperature or humidity or heat or like new ingredients or whatever. But you can also learn how to play with this and have as much fun as possible and make it part of the show. And yeah, that's I'm happy that it happened earlier than later in my season, that I was like, okay, I'm part of the crew.
I like it.
Very, very cool.
Yeah,
That's
Peter.
Attitude. Yeah. Sorry, Peter.
I think that's just an approach which is probably one of the best bits of advice if anyone is going on Bake Off,
Yeah.
is to lean into the fact that you're making a TV show and leaning into the cameras. Because I think some people can be quite um, closed off to it and be like, oh no, I'm baking and I'm stressed, and why are you putting a camera in my face? And oh, but actually, if you just lean into it and go, oh, we're here to make a TV show. So when I am, pulling something out of the oven, I'll just let the camera guys know I'm doing this if you want to see it. And if they say, oh, can you just like stir that caramel again? You're like, yeah, sure, because it'll take me 3 seconds, and then we carry on with it. So I think it's some of the best advice to just lean into that fact that you're doing TV, and you can play about with it and have fun with it.
Yeah.
Like I would not have been able to remember jokes and everything like that. I would have forgotten everything else that was going on and been stressed about trying to land a joke. So I could go that far. But leaning into the TV element of it, it also makes it different and a different experience, which is really enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've heard that often from other guests we've had on our podcast before. It's just finding that joy and going with it and just enjoying the moments and taking it all in. It sounds like that's something that you guys are wholeheartedly behind as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a little bit of cake and some icing. Like, it'll be fine. It's just not that deep.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, just there to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody that's there loves to bake. This is their passion. This is, a dream they've probably had for a long, long time. And yeah, and once you get there, yeah, take it all in, enjoy it all. And,
Yeah.
regardless of what happens uh at the end. But yeah, I think you guys all had really great attitudes going into that tent and being able to take it all in. And in spite of, Peter, your age, just everything, right? And just to have fun and go with it all. So, and be prepared, because it sounds like you guys were all very, very prepared heading in there as well.
Yes, definitely. A lot of
Loïc was like,
looks like this sounds fun. I think I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
All
Yes. Learn how to make shoe pastry today. I have no idea what it is.
No, most often I was prepared, but the show highlighted sometimes like my lack of knowledge. Like one day I was walking, like we were walking towards the tent and they were filming us walking. And the conversation I was having with Candace, she was like, "So how many dowels are you putting in your cake?" And I was like, "What are dowels?" And then she was like, "Well, you're putting plates between them, like, or like, this little cardboard thing." And I was like, "Cake what?" And like I had always practiced without any support, just like stacking cakes on top. And then I walked in the tent and I told the crew, I was like, everything that Candace is using, I want a set of that. Like just adjusted last minute. But so yeah, I was prepared, but I also did not know so many things.
Yeah. And
Lots to learn.
was there a moment for either of you, Peter or Laura, that was similar for you, or something that or when you got the briefs of what you had to bake, that you just looked at it and went, I don't know how to do that? Was there anything?
yes, for me it was the craziest one we had to do was six six of two flavors of like frozen entremets basically in like 4 hours. That had to be yeah, see, thank you. Thank you. Peter and Loïc get it. So we were like, wait, sorry, you want us to make 12 entremets in 4 hours? How are we gonna? It was like 4.5 or whatever it was, but it
Yeah.
was like I don't like there's like multiple components that you have to make, and then you have to freeze them hard, and then you have to mirror glaze them. I was like, what? I've never made a mirror glaze before. That was a very
Oh,
sticky 2 days of
hate
practice.
mirror glaze.
Um, yeah, it was just a disaster. We were like we didn't have 2 days between our episodes. That was interesting to hear. We basically filmed Monday, Tuesday for one episode, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday for another episode, and then the weekend off. And so it was quite hectic. So I remember, yes, it was like a Saturday, Sunday that we were prepping for mirror glaze cakes. But that was like, I don't know. So I ended up making like a brownie and a mousse and a caramel and a biscuit and another mousse and a jam thing and mirror glaze and then do it. It was just a mess. It was like, yeah, it was quite a lot. But that was not much practice. I only did it in components, and we were like, well, hope for the best. Hopefully these freezers work. That was
Yeah,
very stressful.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah.
No dry
Entremets are
ice.
tricky. Entremets are tricky the best of days, with all the
Liquid
components,
nitrogen.
making sure everything's setting properly.
Yeah,
Proper
exactly. One of the
temperatures.
contestants was like, "All right, can we have dry ice?" We were like, "What are you gonna do with dry ice? Like, how do you what does that even mean? Like, do you put dry ice in the freezer?" And he was like, "No, it'll be fine." And then he was eliminated the day before that we had to do this challenge. And so the dry ice came to set anyway. And we were like, "Do we use this? Sure." So we're all just packing dry ice into our freezers and hoping for the best, like pouring salt on ice and like anyway, the whole thing.
Anything
It
to
was a whole
do.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Came together somehow.
It did.
Yeah,
Just.
again, the magic of the shed or the tent, right? Things just magically happen, and everybody presents these gorgeous bakes in spite of all the craziness. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Mhm.
How about you, Peter? Was there something when you looked at the briefs that you went,
Yeah, there was. I mean, there's kind of two. There's a very nice story in here and a more stressful story in here as well. The very nice one was we had in for the semi-final. We had to make Savaran rum baba type things
Mm.
for the signature challenge, and I was making them okay at home, but I never really had one before. Didn't really know what it was. And Hermine was in my series, she was fantastic at classic French technique and baking. And actually, when in the practice tent, she taught me how to make a saffron dough properly and how to really develop the. I also grew up doing a lot of gluten-free baking, so my knowledge of kind of gluten formation wasn't as good as it would be if I'd grown up making a lot of bread. She really taught me how to do that, and that is the bake that I got a Hollywood handshake for,
Yeah.
which is like
Wow.
a big, and that filled off my bake off bucket list doing that.
Mhm.
So
That's
that was
amazing.
I didn't know how to do that before going on the show, but Ermine showed me how to do that. So you could say it's lack of preparation, but I think that's more the joy of the sharing nature of it.
Yes.
And then the one that was slightly less fun was for, I think it was the quarterfinal. It might have been the week before. That was the week where I very nearly went home, and we had a jelly cake showstopper. And kind of this is one of the challenges. The challenge came through, and I didn't really like the idea of it as a concept. I didn't like the idea of a jelly cake. So I didn't put my all into practicing and preparing it. Um, but I had I had this big jelly dome on top of my cake, which needed to sit there. And never before going into the tent had I unmolded this dome without it completely falling to pieces all down the side of the cake. Um, and the day before I'd done it in the practice tent and it completely fell apart. There was no jelly on top of that cake. And I did it in the tent and it held together for the first time ever. It actually held in one piece and I had a jelly cake to show. Now, from the judging, it was not a very good jelly cake. It nearly got me kicked out, but it held. So I was very fortunate there because that was a something that I hadn't done enough work on it before because I didn't like it. And then it was sort of a bit of blind panic, a wing and a
Hmm.
prayer, and thankfully it held up on the day and it was enough to get me through. But that could have easily changed my whole bake-off journey that way. But I was very, very grateful that it stayed standing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those jelly cakes are yeah. Those are scary, probably scarier than entremets.
They make for good
About the
drama.
I would
same.
agree with that.
They do
I would
make
agree with that.
Good
drama.
TV.
Yeah.
Yes, right? Totally great TV, great drama.
Yeah. Well, I can totally relate to the whole idea of you were avoiding it because you don't like doing it, right? It's like I'm not going to practice this very much because it sucks. And then you inevitably are going to have to do it at some point, right? So, yeah, it's good
Yeah,
that it turned out the way that it did.
yeah.
Lucky.
So what was the most surprising or unexpected thing that happened to you in the tent? And then a follow-up question, since your win, anything that's been cool and exciting or surprising? So, Peter, do you want to start this one off?
Yeah. Surprising thing that happened in the tent is possibly my jelly cake staying up. That was that was probably quite a surprise. I think actually in the tent, the main thing was just seeing what it takes to film the show and actually seeing how many people are in the tent whilst you're baking, how many cameras are there, how much filming, and then also how long it takes. It's a long day. When you're in the challenge, it takes the time that the challenge takes, but everything around it, they told us you'll get used to hurry up and wait. You've got to be somewhere really fast and you've got to be there on time. And then you'll sit there for 3 hours waiting for anything to happen. So you got a lot of chat time with your baking colleagues, baking family through it. So yeah, just seeing the behind the scene working of the show was quite interesting and eye-opening. And then since I think I've been so blessed with different opportunities that have come since the back of the show. I've also been quite blessed of coming from Edinburgh as a city. It's a very small city. Only 500,000 people live here, but it's the capital city of Scotland. It's got a lot of history, a lot of culture to it. It's got a big arts festival each year. So I think with being from the city has so many opportunities. And I think probably one of the coolest things that travels very well is that we were celebrating Edinburgh's 900th anniversary as a city, and I made a cake that was cut by the King and the Queen. So they came up to Edinburgh Castle, and I
Wow.
presented the cake,
Wow.
which I put Edinburgh skyline around the collar of it. We had a nice wee chat. The Queen watches Bake Off, which is quite cool. And
Ah!
and then
Oh
they
my
cut the
gosh,
cake and it
that's
got
so cool.
shared with the crowd. So there's been a lot of really really cool things that never in my life would I expect that I got to do, and especially not because of just sharing my hobby and my passion for food and baking. So yeah, very very cool things in there.
So when
Ah.
you're walking around Edinburgh, then do people recognize you? Do they stop you on the street and go, Peter, we saw your season, we love your baking, that kind of stuff?
I'm during when the show was on, it happened rather a lot, and I think again because it's a small city. Also, it was during COVID, so really not much was going on. So I think people were just like, "Oh, something's happening," and they were like, so the city really got behind me, which is so grateful for. And so yeah, a lot of people, my flatmates at the time, would enjoy it. We'd walk through the park, going off to the university, and they just sort of hang back a wee bit, and they'd see people walk past and like nudge each other and go, "That's the kid from TV um, over there," and they'd get a bit of a kick out of that. So that was funny. Now I'm very old news. I'm very boring. I still live in the same
Hardly.
place, so no one cares. But we get quite a few tourists to the city, and actually, typically, sort of, I'll get stopped every once in a while by someone visiting from the States or something, and they'll be quite excited, and that's very very nice because it's always a nice interaction. If someone stops you because they know Bake Off, they'll
Hmm.
they're going to say it's because they love the show and they really enjoyed watching it at that time.
Hmm.
So it's a very nice way to be noticed and recognized in the street, definitely. But now
Hmm.
it's at a very occasional, rare level, which is
Mm,
also quite good.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Laura? Do you get recognized a lot?
No, well, I think same when the show was on the air. Our setup's a little bit different. We're on a very major streamer and on like a paid, premium TV over here, so it's a little bit different than sort of your what we call free to air.
Mhm.
But it definitely while the show was on, it was happening a little bit, but not so much now. But there are lots of like really wonderful diehard, Bake Off fans that follow every franchise and every episode globally who are always in my DMs, like sending me encouraging notes, which is lovely. Yeah, but I think like surprising things, since being on the show, I'm very lucky. I'm very, very blessed that I live in Melbourne, which is one of the best food cities in the world, I think. Um, but I think that's objective. That might not even be subjective. But we have a really great food culture here and a really great cafe culture and a really great, food and drink. Just in general, the hospitality network here is incredible, and they have just really welcomed me with open arms. I've met some really amazing chefs and creators and cakers and all that from in the network, and got to collaborate with lots of them and done pop-up events and thrown like big cake parties and all of that jazz for the Melbourne community. And I hope to keep doing that. That's like what I love doing, is bringing joy to other people through food and getting to meet and work with people like Loïc and Peter and yourselves who are so passionate about it as well, is like part of my joy in life. So
Cool. It's so true though. Baking and making food for other people, there is something so therapeutic and joyful and wonderful about it.
yeah,
And yeah, and it brings so many people together. And
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I've only shared stories about stressful times in the shed with you, but it was a really amazing experience and I loved it and I had so much fun. Like, are you kidding? It's like fantasy land, like bake whatever you want, never have to clean any dishes. Like, great. But like that, the
Yeah, sounds
opportunities
great.
that has, yeah, it's like the dream. The opportunities that that's afforded me, and just like, getting to meet people and they're going, oh, you were on the Bake Off, like that. That's just like the cherry on top, basically, of the whole thing.
Yeah,
very cool.
definitely.
How about you, Loic?
I think the thing that surprised me the most, beyond like how the tent works and how big it is and everything, the behind the scenes is how much I actually learned throughout those weeks. Like I knew I would develop my baking, but when I when I got when I got to Toronto for the filming, like I met the other bakers, and then obviously when you meet the other bakers, you're always like, oh, okay, I'm the least experienced. I'm gonna be the first one to leave. This is clear. um,
Clearly.
but then I think I think like before the show, I knew a variety of recipes, but in a very like not interconnected way. Like I knew how to make pastry cream, I knew how to make different like fillings, I knew how to make different types of cakes, but I did not know how all the different types of like sponges and cakes and biscuit fall on like a continuum where you increase this, you increase that, like and on a show, that's really what happened. Like everything fell into place, into categories, and by the end, I felt like like I knew like so many more ratios. I was like, oh yeah, if I want to jellify that amount of liquid, I should be using that amount of gelatin, which equals like that amount of like sheets. And that, I feel like that gave me such a more complete portrait of what baking is. And now when I do a lot of teaching right now. That's mostly what I do. I probably teach more than I bake, and I find it really useful because I'm able to recognize what has happened. I'm able to say, well, you should have like 10% more, or I can say like, oh yeah, when you make pastry cream, it's roughly a tablespoon of cornstarch per egg yolk. And just knowing all these kind of like fundamentals of baking has really transformed who I am as a baker. And I learned way more of those than I thought would be possible over the course of 6 weeks of filming.
Yeah. Did you guys also feel the same thing about just all the learning that took place? I know, Peter, you shared your story where you learned how to properly make the sovereign dough, and yeah, same thing. Did you, I guess,
Yeah.
leave with so much more knowledge and
Oh,
confidence,
yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. I mean, because when someone thinks they're good at baking, they're good at like one very narrow thing, really. Like you actually don't realize that there's so like such a broad range of techniques and recipes and cultural references and like all sorts of things, like exactly what Loic is saying around like technical things like gelatin ratios and technical things like what is a diplomat, it's like a pat plus like just like how do you kind of hone your building blocks of baking and of food is like your eyes just open when you're suddenly in a room with 11 other people who are very good at their like own thing, right? And then you all just like grow together and learn together. And we also had the really great fortune of learning from the judges. They would occasionally, like at the end of technicals, I remember Darren Purchase, who is a very iconic British Australian pastry chef. He created this like kind of strange, crazy, love you dads jelly roll thing, which was like a sheet of sponge but wrapped in jelly that was gin and tonic kind of flavored with like a juniper cream on the inside. And he invented it for the show, like, technical, because he's a crazy, he's a mad scientist. But that jelly recipe, for example, is very like unusual and very specific because it uses both gold sheets and agar powder. And that creates like a certain kind of texture that holds at room temp and sets in the freezer really quickly in 10 minutes. And so he was like telling us about this jelly recipe and like really breaking it down. He's like, yeah, you just sub in like this liquid and it holds alcohol really well. And like, it's a recipe that I now use regularly and that he gifted to us basically. But like even having those little interactions with the judges, with the other contestants as well, just really solidifies like, wow, there's so much to learn and you'll just never finish learning it all. You'll never be a true master of everything. So it was that's kind of my favorite part of the show and baking as well. It's like just there's so much more. So much more.
Right, because your journey has not ended. You're continuing to
No,
bake.
it feels like
always.
It's just the start.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like it's just the start, really. Like, I think there's things that I'm sure all three of us love making all the time and, we go back to in our kind of faithful recipes, but it's, being challenged by like, what's this thing I've never heard of in this corner of the world that I'm going to give it a go and it's really delicious and what can I learn from that? And, that's the exciting bit.
Yes. It's all
Very, very cool.
I know.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, I think we could all bake something completely different every single day. And all five of us combined would never be able to get through all of the crazy bakes and amazing things that you can bake out there in our lifetime.
Exactly. Yeah,
There's
exactly.
So much. Yeah.
There's just so much, and everyone has their own perspective and their own bend on things. Like, like if you gave the three of us a particular challenge, I'm sure we'd take it in completely different directions with different flavor profiles and techniques. And yeah, it's just like
I smell the challenge coming on.
Yes, me too.
Oh,
well,
sorry.
we never made that steamed layered cake, the lattice cake.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, I'll send that to you, Loic. I think you'd love that. You'd love that.
Peter, have you ever baked that?
No, that I must say that terrifies me. That completely terrifies me. But that's the cool thing. It's so far out the comfort zone, and that's
yeah.
And that's the piece of like doing all these crazy challenges is that it puts you into a place that you'd never go yourself.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
need challenges. So please, yeah, Laura, do send that through and challenge me to it, and I should
I will.
Yeah.
keep me
It's
accountable to
it's
do
super
it.
delicious. It's just like a really light coconutty. It's a little bit like sweet salty, but you have to peel each layer off as you eat it. That's the rule.
Oh,
So
that
you've got
sounds
to like
fun.
bake it in a way that or steam it rather in a way that the
Yeah.
layer's set enough that you can peel it off. And that was actually the test that Rachel used in judging. And you like it starts with a red layer and then you like put it in your mouth and like it's a little bit chewy. It's like not quite as chewy as mochi, but yeah, I'll send
You
it.
put
You'll
different
love it.
flavors in with the different colors too.
No, it's just all like a very light coconutty, slightly coconutty. You can add a little bit of like pandan leaf in it as well, which is like the Asian vanilla.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys are, hopefully you guys are
I've
familiar,
heard
but
of it.
it's just very lightly fragrant, um, herbalish, like vanilla-y flavor with coconut, and it's kind of sweet, but not overly sweet. It's just a little hint of salt. Like, yeah, it's very well balanced. It's very typical Southeast Asian sweet that we would have all
Right.
the time.
It sounds so good.
So I think
Yeah.
we have the basis for like our community of international baker who send each other technical challenges
Yeah,
once in a
yeah, let's
while,
do it.
and whoever does
Do
best
it.
has to send the next challenge. And
Oh, can we get
I'm
in on
into
that
it.
too? I know we're not part of the official
We're
club,
not
but
international winners or international
no,
bakers.
no.
Maybe
I'm
one
up for a
day we
challenge
can be
any
in
day.
that club, but if
Yeah.
you want to challenge us to do something, I challenge myself every single season of the Great Canadian Baking Show. I bake along. So I've baked since season 4. I've done every single challenge every week. And
Oh
I'm
my gosh, all 3 challenges or
yeah,
just like that? That's amazing.
sometimes they're better
Wow.
than others. But that's because when I'm baking, people order cakes and stuff like that, and they're always ordering chocolate cake, and I'm getting a little tired of just making chocolate cake. So I love it when the season's airing, and I'm like, all right, I have all these different things I can try and learn and practice for the potential eventuality that I will ever end up in that tent, you
It's
know.
not if, it's when.
Well, even if not, I'm learning and I'm loving, and there's lots of things that I've discovered that I'm able to then put into my repertoire. So, yeah. But we love challenges too. So if the 3 of you want to set a challenge for us, we would love
For
that.
game. Yeah, bring it
Yes.
on. Bring it
Yeah.
on.
Right, game on.
Yeah.
So
By the way,
speaking
I
of,
get asked to make chocolate cake all the time, and
Yeah.
I'm bored. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. nice to do something different. So,
yeah.
So on that note, speaking of being game and doing, different things that maybe take us out of our comfort zone a little, are we up to playing a little game of this or that? Yes.
Let's do it.
All righty.
All right.
So it's kind of like a lightning round. We're going to throw at you a couple, maybe 3, 4 options. You tell us what your preference is. So we'll start off nice and easy. Coffee or tea? Lo, do you want to
Coffee.
start us off? Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
Lars.
definitely
I jumped in.
coffee.
Although tea is growing on me a little bit. Yeah, but coffee.
Okay, coffee. Laura,
Dark,
coffee.
dark coffee.
Dark.
Yeah, I'm coffee too. I would be an embarrassment as a Melburnian if I chose anything but coffee. We take coffee very seriously in this city.
Sounds like it.
I'll be
Peter.
an embarrassment of a Brit and say coffee as well. So
Good for you. I was like, oh, we're gonna have one tea, and nope.
I mean, I love tea. I love tea, but
You got to
coffee
break
is
stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
The best part of tea is the scone and clotted cream that it's served with.
Mm.
There's something so nice about that. Clotted cream with some nice homemade jam with a nice freshly baked scone. Not much beats that.
My Scottish neighbor always criticized my scones, and then she always said, like, yeah, if you don't reach like 3 or 4 inches of rise, don't even bother like asking me for comments. Like,
Oh,
Wow.
that's harsh.
getting
Oh,
honest
that's
feedback,
harsh.
that's
Yeah.
important, right?
3 to 4 inches is
Yeah.
that's a big scone.
you have
How
to
do you
put them
fit
in a
that
way
into
that they
your
touch
mouth?
each other so they kind of grow together.
Yeah.
Oh, so they'll just
She ended up sharing that tip with me. It was an experienced baker.
Wow. My jaw hurts.
I feel like that's
just
okay.
thinking
You're
about
allowed to dole out the harsh criticism if you also give a good baking tip to get you to that outcome. That's all right.
right. Yeah, then it's all good.
It's all balance for sure. All right. Cake or pie?
When you say pie, what
Oh,
do you
yes.
mean?
This is the tarts and pies question, right?
Yes.
Because you guys are
No one
North
wants to
American,
answer.
pie means something very different to me, and I think pie might mean something very different to Peter as well.
Okay.
Good
So,
point.
how would you define a pie then?
Well, to me, a pie is a savory meat pie,
Hmm.
Okay.
And to
like
me, a
flaky
pie has
puff.
flaky crust, often with the top.
Right.
Yeah.
With a
Whereas
lid
our
on
like
it.
savory, yeah, our savory pies have like a puff pastry lid, but it's usually like a short crust on the
Hmm.
bottom, which isn't very flaky. And it's very kind of savory. I don't, Peter, what do you think? Weigh in, sir.
Um, I my top would be a savory pie. Steak
Hmm.
pie is my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
But we do also have apple pie and you know, trickle
Fruit pies.
tart and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So uh, in the cake versus pie in the sweet realm, I will go for cake over pie. I think. Now I'm questioning my choice because
There
because
really are
pie's
no
really
wrong
good.
answers. And
Like a
we
blueberry
hardly
pie.
judge here.
I went to New Hampshire for 4th of July this year, and we had blueberry pie like every day, and it was so good.
Mhm.
And it was
Fresh,
it was
or was it
great.
a baked blueberry pie?
Yeah, like a baked with like the blueberry jam compote in the middle, and it was so good. But I'm
Nice.
going for cake. I'm going for cake over pie. That's
Cake
my
over
that's my
pie.
final answer.
Peter's
Okay.
cake. Laura?
Cake.
I think I'm cake, but
Okay.
I haven't really had like a real American pie, I would say. I love pecan pie. That's probably my favorite, but I would almost call that a tart. You
Hmm.
could potentially call it a tart if it doesn't have the top on it, right? I think
Yeah.
I'm cake. I think I'm team cake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I
And
will go with team pie, actually.
team pie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just not apple.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like Peter and Laura, I was just telling them before, last year with my family-in-law, we had a pie contest and I placed seventh out of seven. And even my brother-in-law, who like kneaded the dough for like half an hour and showed up an hour late, like made a better pie than me. What an embarrassment.
This is the fear. This is the fear of the of the Bake Off win. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I mean, it was a blind taste test, right, Loic?
Yes.
Yeah, they
Yes.
had no
So I
idea.
so I so I truly made a bad pie.
You overthought it, I think. You just tried too hard.
Yeah.
I make a
Doesn't
better
mean you're a
tart.
bad baker. Yeah,
There you
okay.
go.
Go.
Cool. All right. Next one, sweet or savory bakes. What's your preference to make and also to eat?
Everybody's worried about talking over each other.
I'll
Yeah, I
break the ice
know.
and say sweet with moderation.
Sweet and moderation. Okay. Both baking and also for enjoying yourself personally.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I feel very creative with flavor combinations when it's sweet. But yeah, I really like the kind of like French side of things, viennoiserie, puff pastry, and a sweet element. But yeah, like too intense cakes are not so much in my realm.
Hmm.
All right.
Gotcha.
Laura?
I'm a sweet tooth all the way. No
Nice.
question. I agree. I think you can be a little bit more creative well, that's not true. You can there's a lot more kind of like components and exciting, fun texture and stuff that you can create in sweet. Um, but I will say the savory challenges in the shed or in the tent were the best lunches. So
Mm.
Oh yeah.
yeah, bit
I
of
love
Are
both.
you
You get a
talking
little
about the beef Wellington?
Except the beef Wellington. Do we have to bring that up, Loic?
What happened
The
with the
beef
beef
Wellington.
Wellington?
So the beef Wellington was one of the technical challenges, and it was a full puff pastry and like full fillet in I don't know something ridiculous, some ridiculous time. Anyway, I know how to make puff pastry. I clearly didn't make it properly and didn't roll it up thin enough, and I had an absolute shocker. I think I came dead last in
Mm.
that challenge. But also since then, so we aired in 2023. Since then, there has been a very high profile murder case where a lady in rural Victoria actually was convicted of killing some of her family members with a beef Wellington using poisoned mushrooms or like using poisonous mushrooms. And so she's the beef Wellington killer, and it's quite like a fantastical case. I'm looking forward to the Netflix documentary when it eventually comes out. But like we were like, thank goodness our episode didn't air in the same year. Yeah, because it would have been shocking. But yes, it was actually a really delicious day on set because we just ate filet mignon like for dinner. That was divine. But yeah, puff pastry, raw puff pastry, not so good.
For a technical, that's woo.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
For a technical. Yeah. I think it was a 3-hour technical, full puff, full filet, the whole kit and caboodle.
Wow.
That is a long technical.
That's incredible. Yeah.
You should be bowing down. I failed it, so it should be.
Oh, but the fact that you
didn't give
something. Up. Yeah, you didn't. Yeah,
that is true. We one of the contestants, Alona, she actually had a dream the night before that we were like cooking like crazy amounts of meat for this technical because she was so like panicked about what this possible technical could be. And then when we found out it was beef Wellington, she was like, guys, I think I've like dreamt this into existence. Like we're cooking like a massive hunk of meat. Like, yeah.
That would be a delicious one, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
It was good.
I'm all about the savory. Peter,
sweet or savory?
I'm gonna go for sweet. I did reference my love of a steak pie, and that's probably my favorite baked item in the world. But in general, I'm very sweet tooth. I'm incredibly addicted to sugar, and working in cake is only making that addiction worse. You don't get sick of it, you just want more of it. And I also love, I think with the sweet things, I think you can make them a bit, it's really nice to make pretty things and little intricate things. So I think with sweet baking, that's kind of where my creativity comes out.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you say a meat pie is your favorite baked good of all time? That's a big call.
Steak pie is my
like
favorite.
A steak and ale pie?
Yeah, it's my favorite. My favorite dinner. Steak pie plus sticky toffee pudding. That is my that's I'm from the UK card stamped right there.
Oh yeah.
Sticky toffee
what
pudding.
What about
last
you,
night?
Laura? What's your favorite baked good of all time? If you could keep one. Yeah.
I'm a croissant. And viennoiserie in general, but like croissant in general.
Loïc, what's yours?
Mine would be the apricot croissant. So it's kind of like it's a puff pastry. Usually there's a little bit of pastry cream, poached apricots, and then it's folded over. There's a variety of names for it, but yeah, that's my favorite baked goods.
It's a lot more classy than my answer.
No,
yours is just plain delicious.
French viennoiserie.
No.
Well, steak pie is pretty classy.
There's something super comforting and enjoyable and warm about steak pie, and then you top it off with like sticky toffee pudding. I mean, that's a heavenly meal.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's straight to bed. Actually, that's what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm happy to eat that daily. I think.
I agree.
Yeah,
definitely agree with that. All right, next question: signature, technical, or showstopper?
I'm gonna go for signature. I enjoy it. It's something manageable. Not too long, put your own twist on it, focus on technique, and don't go mental. So yeah, signature is always a nice place to be.
All right.
Okay. So you come in on day one going like, all right, I'm ready for this. This is exciting. I get to do this right now.
Let's do it. Yeah, it's nice.
For me, 100% the technical. No stress in practice, no anxiety about what you're about to make, just like a fun game. Loved it.
I like that you approach it as a fun game.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Laura.
I'm going to complete the trio. I'll say showstopper because I think they're the challenges that really stretch you, and you're kind of like forced to learn lots of different components, and they're pretty spectacular. I mean, I've been in a room now with 12 3-tier cakes, and that's pretty special.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah.
That would be actually very, very impressive to see that. Yeah. When you've got your head down and you're working and you're just like trying to get everything done in time, and you finish and you just kind of stand up and look around and you're like, wow, look at what's been going on around me while I've been focusing on this. That must be pretty amazing.
Yeah, and then you watch the episode and then you realize someone set their roll of paper towel on fire, and you
And
didn't
you had
realize
no
that.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess there's so much going on around you that, like, if something does happen, you might not necessarily catch it because you just are zoned right in and highly focused on what's going on in your station. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what it was like for me. I was creating my own mess.
there you go. All
And then
right.
somebody else cleaned up after you, right? So
Yes.
Exactly. So it was
dream come
delightful.
true.
That's got to be a really nice feeling. Now when you're doing your practice bakes where you're staying and stuff, do you also have a cleaning crew or are you responsible for your own cleaning when you're doing your practice bakes?
Sadly.
Yeah.
Sadly, yes. We actually we didn't have a practice set. We just had apartments
Yeah.
that we were staying in with like tiny, tiny galley kitchens that we had to bake in. So that was very much you create the mess, you clean it up.
Yeah,
Man.
same for us. We had kitchenettes in our hotel rooms, and I often told room service that my room was too dirty to be cleaned.
Oh,
You're
don't
like,
even bother.
don't-
Just
you
drop
do
off the
not
clean
want to go
towels.
in there.
That's
Yeah, there's
totally
like flour on the walls and like
Oh,
butter everywhere. Yeah, not good.
I mean, you can imagine trying to figure out. I mean, for Laura and Peter, was it the same for you that you get the first half of the briefs basically to ahead of time and you practice them, and then when you advance further in the season, then you get further ones, so then you have to practice them in those tiny little kitchens.
I was
Have to.
like,
No, if you want to
No, you go.
practice, that's where you're practicing.
I was slightly
You
different
go.
because mine happened. I got the call that I was on the show the day that the UK went into lockdown for COVID. So immediately it went from, oh, we're going to start filming in a couple of weeks to, the whole world has just come to a halt. So what are we going to do? So we actually had 3 months longer between knowing we were on the show and filming. So they gave us the first 9 weeks of challenges by that point because they were like,
Wow.
there's no point us holding this back. So we actually went with 9 weeks ready. And then I think on filming week 7, they gave us the final brief. So I only had one thing that I needed to fully develop whilst in that space, which I think was a made my life a lot easier to what I think other people have to go through on the show, to be honest.
yeah,
Hmm.
because 3 months is like probably twice as long as normal contestants would have, right? Because I think it's about 6 weeks before you would get all your briefs and or get part of the briefs. So yeah, that's kind of nice and probably maybe a little less. I still stressful because you've got all
I
the
find
stuff
it more
going on.
stressful.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think
Yeah. You have
yeah?
more time to stress about it and try to refocus and like try this recipe over and try to fit it into the time and oh, can I beat it this time? And you're just doing it nonstop for 3 months. That sounds exhausting. I don't know. Loic's nodding, so
Yeah.
that
So
Yeah, that's
Loic agrees with you,
the
Laura.
practice weeks were so difficult because you never know when to stop. It's
right.
there's no limit. Like when you're on set, at one point they just knock on the door and be like, "We have to go," and you go. And I felt it was easier to manage like your own expectations and the schedule. But when I saw the brief of the two last episode that they gave us throughout, I think my first reaction was like, "Well, I hope I won't be there anymore." Because
Tough
it
luck for
seemed
I
like
you,
so
Loic.
big to prepare. And then yeah.
Yeah, I did the same. I wrote a set of recipes for the finale because I was like, well, I'm not going to be there. It doesn't matter. We got it at like week 6 or 7, filming week 6 or 7.
Mhm.
And I like wrote something like crazy. Like our finale was afternoon tea, so 3 different varieties, 6 of each, like one at least one savory, one sweet. And I just wrote the most stupid menu. It was like crazy. It was like 14 components or something in 3 hours. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna this is like my fantasy thing, right? So I'm not gonna have to make it, so it's all good. And then I got there and I was like, oh, now I'm gonna have to make rough puff and like multiple creme pats and scones and homemade butter and what else did I do? I can't remember what else. Oh, biscuits and stuff. And I was like, oh well, I was just like running for the whole 3 hours, sprinting for the whole 3 hours. But yes, we got half before we even landed on set, and then
Mhm.
we trickled in after that. But you definitely lose steam after a
Yeah.
while. In towards the end, in like episode 7 or 8 ish, I was starting to make things for the first time that I'd never tested before.
Yeah.
Which I was like, I'm not going to be that baker. I'm going to be so prepared, and I'm going to like, practice everything to time. But you just like you run out of time and you're exhausted by that point. So
It must be such a balance because you have this, on the one hand, you have not really had the chance to plan and prepare and practice as much, um, and you're exhausted, but you also have learned so much from the amount of time that you've been in the tent. So you do, and the challenges are more difficult as you're getting toward the end of the season. So like
As are the expectations too.
yeah, there's fewer
Like the
people
judges.
there, so you have to really make a good impact. So yeah, that sounds, I don't know, sounds very scary. I hope
yeah,
I'm never there.
no,
That's a big lie.
You want to be there.
I do want to be there really badly.
I also think like towards the end, it's sort of in your muscle memory. Like I was making like creme pat with my eyes closed, basically. Like, it just like it's so like there. I don't know how Loic and Peter you felt, but towards the end I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like I know it's going to take me 15 minutes to make a creme pat. And it was just like now I'd be like 15 minutes, calm down. But yeah, it was just like a different. You just unlock a different gear when you're there.
Yeah.
This and the ability to start over as soon as you finish. Like you hit the oven with your cake and you're like, I'm going to start making another batter because I want to try something different. And it's just like uninterrupted over and over again. And at home, I can never do that. Like you were talking about entremet earlier. If I make an entremet at home, I'll start making a component, take a 4-hour break, make another component, and eventually I will never complete my entremet because there's too many components to make.
Yeah.
But on the show, happens.
Yeah. Maybe 4 days later it comes together.
Whereas when you're on the show, that's all you're doing. That's literally what you're eat, sleeping, and breathing. Yeah.
That makes sense. All right. Next one. Early morning or late night bakes? When's your favorite time to be in the kitchen and create?
I'm an early
Am I
morning
prepping
baker.
for Bake Off?
Or just in today's
general?
world. Yeah, in general.
Go for it, Peter.
I'm early morning bakes. That's what I like. If I'm making a wedding cake or something, I need to have the cakes baked. I need to have cakes in the oven before I sit down for breakfast.
Oh.
Because I kind of if I don't, that's my inertia breaker. And then I'm into the day and I'm into baking. And then the cakes are in the oven, I get breakfast, I get cleaned up, and then I'm ready to go for the rest of it once they're out. And that's kind of my get going. Whereas if I leave it too late, I just get too tired and stressed and do lally, and it's not an enjoyable experience anymore. So the morning bakes for me are the way to go.
Yeah.
Do you get dressed before you start baking, or are you still in your night clothes?
I now get dressed because I feel if I'm feeding other people, it's inappropriate for me to be in my pajamas whilst baking. But certainly I used to just bake in my pajamas.
Yeah.
I suppose it depends. But I feel like I probably should. And I'm always filming it now as well.
Yes.
Which ruins it. So I have to be, I mean, I don't really put in much effort to be presentable online. Probably should put in more effort, but it's like you have to be somewhat presentable. And
authenticity
like
is where it's at.
Part of your life together online.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Authenticity is where it's at, but nobody needs to see me baking in my pajamas.
It could be a new series. It could be a totally new series.
Yeah, maybe we would get more viewers, Laura.
Breakfast bakes with Laura.
For a while, I
I'll do
actually
it if you
considered
do.
calling myself the housecoat baker because I get up and then I have
That's good.
coffee and then I'm like, oh, what about this? And I start baking right away. And my housecoat, always in my housecoat, but
Yeah.
or a robe or whatever you call it.
Yeah, I've done that too, where I've recorded something and then you could see
The
I have
sleeve.
to edit it. Yeah, my housecoat sleeve, and I'm like, yeah, I got to edit that out. So you just see like this hand.
Little fingertips.
Yeah, fingertips. How about you, Laura? Are you an early morning baker or a late night?
I think I would like to be an early morning baker. I'm like generally an early riser. But the truth is I probably bake any tiny moment or second that I've got. Like I work full time in a corporate job, so basically when I have big orders and big events, it's like I'm cramming everything that I can into any pocket of time I can. So I'm a all the time, anytime baker.
An anytime baker.
And Loic?
Absolutely morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do a little bit of prep in the evening, but like even if I know I have like 6 hours of baking to do, I'll be like, okay, well, I'll wake up at like 3 in the morning if needed, and that's where I bake.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good way to get the day started because if it's like midnight and you're still going and you're just exhausted and you then you have to go to bed and start the next day all over again. It's just so much better when you get all the baking and decorating and stuff out of the way earlier in the day and then you're like, okay, now everything's clean. I can try to
Mhm.
relax, which never actually happens, but I can try.
So true.
Hmm. All right, next question. Chocolate. White, milk, dark, or some other kind of chocolate?
To eat or bake with?
Either or.
Food? Yeah.
Yeah. Or do you not like
I
chocolate?
oh no, I love please. I think dark chocolate is probably my favorite. I love a 54 and a half to a 70 maybe.
Mhm.
But I also really love gold. I think gold is
Mhm.
Mm,
underrated and under general. And I think when you hit it with the right amount of salt, it can really take something from 0 to 100. I,
hmm
I I would almost always say gold over white.
Yeah.
Is gold like caramelized white chocolate, or is it something else?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
I
caramel. I don't know if you
also
guys had
Thank
caramel
you. I had the
before.
question.
Yeah, caramel. Yeah.
I actually
It is
made
good.
it for the first time like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was very
Oh,
pleasantly
really?
surprised.
It's good.
Well, it just comes in a Calvo bag these days,
Yes.
so highly recommend that.
And they have it at Costco business centers.
I live in a very small town. There's no Costco in sight,
He's in
and
Creston.
So I wonder if you could order it online. You might be able to order it online, but get
But
one of your
make your
favorite
own if he's
bakers to get one of
it,
your
it was
favorite
actually
bakers to
pretty
send you a
easy to
bag.
make.
you
Yeah,
just
with
bake
the
Yeah,
them.
recipes.
yeah, but if you're doing it in if you've ever tried a gold chocolate blondie, like I wouldn't be making your own caramelized white chocolate for that because you just need too much of it. It just takes too long. Like Calvo does an excellent job, but that yeah, I just think like gold is the superior white.
Mhm.
That might be
Mhm.
controversial. I might offend
I
some
think it
people.
is a little controversial.
Not at all. Not at all, Laura. I'm 100% with you. Peter,
Anyone
how
else?
about you?
I think I'm a milk chocolate for eating. I like a Cadbury's Dairy Milk, I must say.
Oh,
It's good.
yes.
And
Classic.
then I suppose with baking, like I when I went on the show, I started using Calabo chocolate and slightly better quality chocolate. And I think it is, especially if you're doing any chocolate work, you kind of need to make sure you've got a decent quality chocolate, which doesn't have too many sort of like non-essential fats and everything thrown into it because it's going to be more difficult to work with and it's not going to temper as well. Um, but I now I mean, I don't actually put up nearly as many recipes as I used to, but now because I'm making recipes for kind of I mean it is yeah, I'm making recipes. I'm using cheap chocolate from the supermarket from Lidl, which is our cheapest supermarket that we've got in the UK. That's what I'm using to make recipes with. But I think one thing that's probably important, like just as like the public service announcement on chocolate is like if you're using a recipe that's got chocolate and it's fundamental for some kind of like setting piece or anything. It's everywhere you go, it's different. And
Mhm.
even if you were saying like I'm using a 55% chocolate, every 55% chocolate is going to have a different amount of sugar. It's going to have a different fluidity. It's going to have a different, it'll have a slightly different temperature for temper on it as well. So I think it's one of those things that is actually, if you find a chocolate that you like, it's quite good to stick with it and use it because you're going to get consistency and quality in your
Yeah.
results. But if you're trying out recipes for the first time, the chocolate can actually have quite a big difference in how things come about because every chocolate is so different in recipe. Even if it's a dark chocolate to a dark chocolate, they're
Mm.
very different in recipe. So it's just something to watch out for when you're
Mhm.
baking at home and just take note of. But
Yeah.
most of the time,
And I'd
chocolate.
also say that you get to like hone your instinct with it, right? Like if you're
Mhm.
tempering with it lots and you're doing lots of kind of really sophisticated chocolate work, you kind of know how it acts and how it behaves, and it's much easier to get a consistent result that way. Also, I think chocolate smells fear. So if you like come at it from like, and you're like, well, this is gonna go badly, like it will go badly. You've just
It will.
gotta go with it. It's like being confident.
What's your approach to tempering, Laura?
I'm a microwave method, which I know
Yes.
is
Oh,
so controversial. But I'm a school of Kirsten Tibble, so I put like whatever seeded chocolate I've got that I need into the microwave and melt it in bursts. And then I stir it every 20, 30 seconds. And then once it's kind of 50% melted and 50% not, I'll then just stir. So just use the residual heat. And
Nice.
I've never let me down. Never let me down.
hmm.
How do you do it? Are you a traditionalist, Loic?
Yeah, I do the bowl boiler, and then I seed with less than 30% though. Like all recipes say, oh, keep reserve 30% of your chocolate. And I find it never melts when I reserve 30%.
Mm.
So I would say I seed probably with more like 15, 20%. But that's my approach.
How about you,
It's
Peter?
again the
What's your
practice, right?
I I don't temper chocolate often. I'll do any form of tempering is better than just melting. So any kind of approach to temper, it is on like a continuum. So you'll get a better set and a better crack if you have an approach to tempering. So I wouldn't be like worried about I must hit these temperatures and get it all the way like at home anything you're doing. So if you're adding in a bit of cold seed chocolate into it, if you're microwaving it not quite all the way, it's better than just like blitzing it completely and melting it entirely. I don't temper properly very much at home. I went to Vegas and I went to Amari Guichon's Pastry Academy out there and we did
I saw
chocolate
that. I want to
Did.
talk to you about that
Oh,
which
badly.
was
That's like my
amazing.
dream thing to do. Yeah.
And it
right.
was it was very, very cool. And so we did a full week of building a chocolate sculpture, and that process, my word, kind of like understanding how you can mold it and how you can laminate it and um do so many different techniques with it was really valuable to learning the technique. So we did a lot of tabling there. In reality, they have tempering machines which keep it perfectly
Yeah.
tempered all the time, which if you're doing anything like that, you have to have that. But we did a lot of tabling work, and I think probably one tip about tempering that is important is not just the temperature changes, but actually agitating the chocolate and making sure that you're working it and moving it
Mm.
is really important to make sure that the sugar crystals line up and you get a good temper on it. So I think that's just one thing to make sure your arms, if you're like seeding it in the bowl and stirring it in Bake Off, because it was always too hot in the tent that you couldn't actually get it down to temperature. I would actually pour it from a hot bowl into a cold bowl to
Mm.
aid the temperature. But yeah, I think as you're seeding it, you should have a sore arm by the end of it, because you've had to kind of work it and
That
make sure that you're
movement.
agitating it as it's cooling at the same time. So yeah, but I'm pretty lazy and I don't really temper properly at home.
No,
Yeah,
excellent advice, excellent tips.
no
And
kidding.
yeah, I
And
would love to speak to Amori one of these days. That's kind of, he's one of our dream guests, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
Admire
absolutely
yeah,
him.
agree.
he would be
Mhm.
amazing. Yeah, yeah, that would be
Definitely.
crazy. And being able to actually learn from him, what an
Full of
amazing
Chocolate is one
experience.
of the best things I've ever seen on Netflix. If you haven't seen it,
Yeah,
everybody has to see it because it's fantastic.
yeah.
And you talk
You
about
you
learning
guys should
as
try
you
and
go,
get
right?
you should try and get there's an Aussie spin-off MasterChef spin-off called Dessert Masters that we've got, and there's 2 seasons of it, and Namor is a judge on it, and he
Oh,
is like spectacular, really, really good. But it's not an amateur competition. They're all professional chefs.
right.
And the work that they do is absolutely incredible. It's incredible
Wow.
in such a short period of time. And like, yeah, just like all pastry chefs from all kind of walks of life, like champions and into, like home bakers who have turned into really successful businesses and like influencers. Like, oh, yeah, but Amor is a judge on that. And he, like, the creations that he's made for it are incredible,
I
incredible.
bet. I bet.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lois, did we get your chocolate? Were
That was
you?
my
I,
question too.
dark chocolate, but I do like that ruby stuff as well.
Oh, Ruby.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the tartness of it.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
And it's pretty too. Like it's just such a pretty, like if you're doing a bonbon with it, and yeah, it just adds a really lovely color and sheen.
Hmm.
Nice.
Definitely.
Okay. Kneading by hand or using a stand mixer to knead your bread dough.
I'll do
Mm,
the cop out answer and say a bit of both. If it's an enriched
yeah.
dough, 100% in the machine.
Yeah.
If it's a regular
Yeah.
dough, I can mix and match. But I always take it out and do a couple kind of like slap and folds
Hmm.
through the dough and make sure it's got a really nice smooth top, because the machine doesn't get it to have a nice smooth top, and that really aids with the structure of the dough. So in the
Good
machine,
point.
let it do its thing, but then take it out and make sure you give it a nice wee shape in between each time that you're letting it sit. So you've got a really nice smooth top before you prove it. So a wee combo, but yeah,
Mhm.
I'm lazy, as I say.
That's
I
not a
think that's
cop
that's my
out.
my theme.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
No,
Great
I
I
would
point.
usually
much
It's
rather
good.
it
It's
stand.
start.
efficient baking. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Efficiency
Not
is
lazy at all.
key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah, I
you
like starting
think
by
about?
hand, because this is the only point where you can really adjust the ingredients. And I find like often I'll want to adjust the hydration. And if you start kneading with the mixer and it's not like, it's really hard to recover from there. So I start by hand. And then when I know that I have the hydration I want, then I let the mixer keep going.
And
And
Laura?
I
And
think
then
I'm more
do some
close to Peter. Yeah, I would start in the machine and then I'd probably finish a non-enriched dough by hand. But if it's enriched, I'm like, the stand mixer's got it.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. That was easy. That was an easy question. Okay. What do you bake to? Music, podcasts, audiobooks, TV shows, or silence? Wow, our podcast is going to sound
Silence.
so good with all these moments of silence in it.
I'm a TV show type and or music generally. Schitt's Creek is probably my favorite show to bake to because I just know what the dialogue's going to be. So I've watched it so many times that like it's just like it's predictable and it's happy and it's
Yes.
funny, and I just need the energy of Moira in me when I bake. Otherwise, I might be watching like another kind of food show just to imbue that person's energy into me when I bake too.
That's
Otherwise,
awesome.
it's like disco, R&B, funk, anything like happy, because I think like your mood really translates into what you're making.
It does for sure.
Yeah.
You need the energy of Moira, who doesn't even know what
Yeah.
in the cheese means.
Yes.
Well,
those
that's
are
true, but
hilarious.
who doesn't need the energy of Moira in their life?
Such a good show. Peter, have you had the chance to see that show?
No, I
You have
don't.
to. It's a Canadian
It's
show. You
amazing.
have to see it. It's
So
fabulous.
fun.
Yes.
And Laura,
It's
you
just a
know that
really
on our two
easy
first
sitcom watch.
seasons, you know
What's that?
that one of the hosts on our two first seasons of baking show in Canada was in Schitt's Creek. Yeah, you know
Yeah,
that. Yeah, you're a real fan.
of course. Iconic.
Okay.
Iconic.
All right, Loic, what do you like to have in the background when you're baking?
Yeah, TV show, absolutely. And I would say my favorite is the Junior Bake Off.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, cute.
I just hope that we will bring a franchise to Canada one day. Like,
Yeah.
you know how when you watch the baking show, you're always like kind of like yelling your advice to the participants, and you're like, no, don't make a full puff. You won't have time. Like with kids, it's just like multiplied. You're like, no, don't hold your cake above your head. You will drop it on the floor. And obviously they drop it on the floor. Um, I love this show. It's so great and positive, and the kids are absolutely reckless.
Yeah, they have no
Right.
fear.
No fear.
No. One of these days, we still hold out hope that we're going to have a junior bake-off in Canada and that you will be hosting it. That would be
Thank you
great.
for remembering.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We remember. We think about that
We
all the
remember.
time.
Yeah.
Definitely want to see that. Yes. All right, Peter, how about you?
Here.
I'm I'm a podcast and music, so baking scraps, of course, number one on the list. It's got to be.
Yay!
And then yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I listen to some music. And actually now I am getting excited because I'll start putting on a bit of the old Michael Bublé Christmas album.
Yes.
Yes.
Christmas
Michael
baking. I think
Bublé.
that's the sign of the season. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Another
that's
great
true.
Canadian. You're
Hmm?
really buttering them up, Peter. It's good.
Right? I know. We're good. We'll lap it all up, Laura. We're good. We're good.
We'll
Keep
take
it coming.
We'll
Keep
take
it coming.
Yeah.
love
If he knows
Michael
what butter
Bublé
tarts
Christmas.
are, we'll be really impressed.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, the next
I've
one.
not had it's high on the list of things I'd like to make for the first time.
For
Oh.
butter tarts.
But
I
I know
think
that
that's
there's some
another
debate
challenge.
as to there's some debate as to what goes in them versus is it raisins? Is it like
There's
raisins
no
or nuts
debate,
that
no
like
raisins.
people are
Yeah, there is no
No
debate.
raisins.
That is
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
the debate. Raisins and
Okay.
butter tarts.
All right, but before we get to that last debate, we have one more. Buttercream or ganache to finish a cake? What's your preference?
Buttercream for me, I think it's much easier to work with, and you've got more kind of decoration options and lots of flavor options that you can kind
Mhm.
of like. I think a lot of like cakers these days think that buttercream is just buttercream and plain, but I think people forget that it's actually a really great carrier for flavor, and it can be a really like delicious textural component to what you're making as well. So I'm buttercream all the way.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite buttercream that you use for your
I
cakes?
actually really, really love a Russian buttercream. That's
Oh,
pretty much the only buttercream that I use now. I think like I used to be Swiss meringue all the way, but you just end up with so many egg yolks and like it's just a little bit of a faff. Like I think like it's just straight up unsalted butter, little pinch of salt, condensed milk, and a little bit of either hot water or so you can use that to kind of like bring your flavor in. But it's so versatile. It comes together really, really quickly.
hmm.
It has the texture of Swiss meringue. It holds really well. You can like freeze it and reheat and re-emulsify. And it's like, yeah, it's like that's the holy grail buttercream for me.
Nice.
Russian buttercream. Gonna have to
Cool.
try it.
Yeah.
All right. How
Mhm.
about you,
Yeah.
Peter?
That's I'm gonna try Russian buttercream. I've not
Yeah,
not heard
Yeah.
of
same.
it, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to
So it's
try
like
that.
the ratio is 500 grams unsalted, really soft, really, really, I can send it to you. 500 grams, whip it until like it's an inch of its life, like white, like super
Mhm.
airy white. It'll take like 10, 15 minutes, keep scraping it down. And then you just open a can of condensed milk. I think the average is about 397 grams. But I usually use about two-thirds of a can for 500 grams of butter, but you just trickle it in as the thing's whipping so it emulsifies, and then I do lots of scraping down, and then I eventually change over to a paddle, and then let the paddle run on like super low speed for 10 minutes until it's super duper smooth. All the same rules apply as Swiss meringue. So if it's too hard, melt a little bit in the microwave, chuck it back in. Like all it emulsifies exactly the same way. And then you can add whatever you want. I've done like hot coffee, coconut cream is really good in that buttercream. Honey caramel is really stunning. I just made like a salted honey caramel buttercream with a coffee cake on the weekend for an event, which was amazing. Like it holds compotes really well. It has yeah, it's like super versatile. Anyway,
Okay.
I'm happy to send happy to send it to you too.
Please do. I was just writing it down. I've got
Yeah, same here. I'm like,
part of the notepad.
Amazing.
Genuinely been
500
writing it
grams
down.
and a two-thirds of a can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About that. About that.
But
Yeah.
that depending on what else you're putting in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And if it just like if it breaks a little bit, I'll just chuck a little bit more condensed milk in, or I'll like put a little bit of hot water in just to kind of let it get a little bit softer and easier to work with. Pipes like a dream, spreads like a dream. It's yeah, just the best.
Sounds
okay.
wonderful.
Nice. And how about if you're doing like floral work with it and stuff? Will it hold the pipe like that too? Yeah.
Yeah. It
Oh,
it behaves exactly as like you expect a Swiss meringue to behave,
okay.
or or even a French, or a yeah.
And stability in like warmer weather, like in the summer. Good
Super.
too.
As an Australian, fine.
Okay, yeah, from Melbourne and when it's hot. Okay, done,
Yeah.
done. I might
Yeah.
be switching.
Yeah, it sets really well. It's just so quick. You just don't have to like, weigh egg whites and like whip on a double boiler. Like you just don't have to do any of that stuff. It just all is in the mixer. You just got to be a little bit patient when you like paddle out the air bubbles.
Mhm.
And I would always say like go a little bit warmer than you think. So I would always microwave a little bit and
Mhm.
like pour it back in to paddle it to get the air bubbles out. But it's just so good. Like ever since I discovered it and have made it like a regular part of my repertoire, that's the only way I make buttercream, basically.
Okay,
And
done.
who
Yeah.
turned you on to that in the first place? When did you discover it?
Gosh, I think I was making a combo of Swiss meringue and Russian buttercream on the show. So it's been a little while. I can't remember who I got it from. It was someone on the internet. And I just decided to try it and then I have never looked back.
We're hooked.
Right.
Yeah, nice.
Mm.
Okay.
All right.
So
Everybody has weighed in on the
I
no
don't think so.
the
No.
Buttercream for
buttercream
me
versus
as well.
ganache.
So
Yeah.
that was my sermon about
No,
Russian
it's
No,
buttercream.
your TED talk was highly appreciated. This is lovely. This
That's what
is
baking
perfect.
scraps is all about.
Yeah, learning from each other. And yeah,
Yeah.
this is fantastic. Great,
Mm.
great tips. So, and
All right.
Peter, did you say you're turning over to Russian as well, it sounds like?
I'm definitely going to try that because I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
But I think I would be ganache to eat over buttercream typically.
Mm,
Me too.
I think
me too.
for using as an icing, I tend to go for a buttercream because it's a lot easier to work with. Because I think ganache, you've either got to have a nailed on recipe and actually you've got to let it crystallize for a really long time until it sets to its final form, or you've got to have like you've got to use it in the window that it's spreadable and workable before it
Mm,
goes too hard if your recipe is going to crystallize further. So it's
mhm.
actually quite tricky to work with a covering with a ganache, I think. Whereas a buttercream's much easier. So I always use buttercream rather than a ganache.
Great. And do
And
you
what
ever?
has been your go-to
Yeah.
buttercream?
Italian meringue until I moved into my new flat and I've got a gas hob and I
Mm.
tried 7 sugar syrups and they all crystallized and I still
Oh,
haven't quite
no.
figured it out in my new flat yet. So I've
Oh,
moved to Swiss meringue
Well,
buttercream until I can
maybe
figure out how to
maybe
make a sugar syrup.
Russian will be your
Yeah.
next
I think
buttercream love.
I think it might be. I think you've
No
solved
cooking
all my problems,
involved.
Laura. I'm very excited.
Yes. Yes.
uh,
And Loic, you said you're a ganache guy?
Well, no, I prefer eating a ganache, but I use Swiss meringue buttercream most of the time. And well, funny enough, I actually fold a bit of ganache in my Swiss meringue buttercream
Yep.
whenever it's possible. Like if I do a vanilla one, there's always going to be a small proportion of white chocolate ganache in there. I just find it kind of changes the sheen of the buttercream. Yeah, it's
mm,
mostly for textural reasons.
I love these tips.
I know.
It's just
So
great.
many, so
Yeah.
many.
Yeah. We can't help but become better bakers when we get to have these conversations with so many amazing
Oh,
bakers.
right.
All right, so our last
All right.
question then. It's
This is where there may or may
usually
not be some judgment.
Cristina will judge. I will never judge. So we're not saying butter tarts in particular, but raisins in baking, yes or no?
Oh, I feel like this is a
Waiting.
landmine.
Yeah, look at Christina's face. She's just waiting to hear what you're gonna say.
Hey, bring it on.
I'll put my my flag in the ground. I'm pro raisins in baking. I will say this: a fruit scone is a good thing. It is a good thing. And also I would be betraying my old flatmate Fraser, who is obsessed with raisins, so much so that I made him a raisin cake for his birthday one year, which was it was an 8-inch small one-tier cake which contained 800 grams of raisins. It was a it was a piñata cake. So rather than doing sprinkles inside the cake, I filled the cake with raisins, which would then flow out as it was cut. It was a brown sugar raisin cake with a brown sugar buttercream, and then the outside was entirely, rather than covered in sprinkles, it was
It's
entirely
covered.
covered in raisins.
Oh
That's
my goodness.
amazing.
And
Wow.
so I am I've propped up the grape and raisin industry by that cake alone, I think.
I
No
would
kidding.
think so.
That's amazing.
That
That's a
sounds like
one.
my worst nightmare.
Right. Mine too. Mine too.
Oh, Christina's always talking about it's the texture, right? That she says there's always a she doesn't like the of raisins.
No.
So
Right? It's
I
like
can just
they're
see
just
her
too
being like,
much. They're just too
"Hey."
much. I actually love currants though. Currants are, do you use a lot of currants in your baking, Peter? Because it's a kind of it's a very British.
I don't really like currants that
I
much.
don't like them.
Like they tend whenever we get them from, and I know they could be better. And if I'm using them, it'll be for a Christmas cake, and we're going to soak them in loads of booze for a few days and stuff.
Mhm.
But typically when you get currants from the shop, they're like bullets. They're
Yeah.
so hard and dry.
Right.
Whereas raisins have got a
Pebbly.
nice sort of, you get really lovely
Yeah.
texture and a nice sort of
Yes.
sweet, juicy, plump raisin is a lovely thing. So yeah, so we're completely opposed, Christina. We're completely opposed here.
That's okay. That's okay. I appreciate different points of view. This will not be the end of our relationship, Peter, so we're good.
Well,
Personally,
On
I'll
my
jump
end,
on the
anyway. I don't know
bandwagon.
about you for me, but
I will jump on that bandwagon. I am also pro raisin. I think raisin in a carrot cake is a delightful thing. Christmas cake, fruit cake. Love fruit cake so much. I think a fruit scone's delightful. But I will say, and also hot cross buns are just the best. But I will say I have to have all of those things with, oh, maybe not all of them, maybe not carrot cake, but scones and fruit cake with, and hot cross buns with apricots, dried apricots as well, and orange zest.
that
I
would
think
be
like the
nice.
combination of those three things is magical.
Yeah, dried apricot is my go-to substitute. Like whatever, like I'll chop them finely, more coarse, and I just, yeah, no
Apricot.
raisins for me.
No
Yeah,
raisins.
dried cherries, even dried cranberries, dried
Dried cherries are delightful.
blueberries, anything but raisins for me.
You
But
do like raisins in
everything else,
certain things, though.
cakes
So
are
don't,
good, figs, everything.
Christina, you do use raisins in certain things. You say they have their place.
They do have their
You
place.
can't just be like no raisins across the board.
Yes,
Maybe
so-
not an excessively raisin cake like that one.
No, an excessively raisin cake would be, like Loic said, my biggest nightmare for sure. But I do appreciate them in like a good raisin bread.
Mhm.
I can appreciate a good raisin bread. I can appreciate a good raisin bagel, and oatmeal raisin cookies.
Mhm.
Those are the three things
Oh,
that are
all
acceptable.
I'm more dramatic
no
than you.
provocation.
I traveled to Morocco last year, and picking up raisins off couscous is really hard, but I did it.
Yeah, I actually don't mind them in savory bakes, to be honest with you.
And that I will not.
Not savory
No.
bakes, but
There's my judging face.
but
Gross.
savory dishes like actual like dinners, like curries and things
No.
like that.
No,
Or
you don't put
couscous.
sweet things
I'm
in your
good with that.
savory. No, no. Oh, sorry, we forgot you were here. We're just having our little argument here. Ugh.
No. As
No,
you can tell, it's a
raisins
bit of a
turn-
contentious, controversial, yeah, discussion point here.
Yes,
But that's okay.
we are running low on time here. So let's just ask, first of all, we're going to say thank you to all three of you for being here with us. This has been so much fun and just amazing. Let's just remind everybody where they can find you on socials. So Peter, if you can just let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm at Peter_bakes on Instagram and then at Peter Bakes on YouTube. That's the two places.
Okay, perfect. Laura?
I'm at LozFoz Bakes, LOZFOZ Bakes on Instagram mostly and a little bit of TikTok.
Okay, and Loic?
Yeah, and I'm at Loic Bakes. That's Loic Bakes on Instagram mostly.
Perfect. Now, do each of you, I don't know if Christina prompted you to have a baking scrap tip or trick for us, for our listeners? I know we've had a lot as we've been going along here, but if you have prepared one, we would love to hear it.
Or maybe the biggest piece of advice that you can give somebody who is thinking about applying for each of the respective shows.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah,
Just tell us.
we're all ready. Just let us know.
Well, my baking
I'll-
scraps or
Yeah,
tip
go on.
is when you make pastry cream or custard or whatever you temper by yourself, instead of putting your egg yolks and sugar in a bowl, you put it in another like pot or something that has a handle. And this way, when you're whisking while you're pouring the hot liquid, the handle will spin towards you and you just kind of like stop it by resting it like against your hip or
That's
against the
good.
wall or under your elbow. And then this way, you're not working with a kind of like non-stop spinning bowl.
That's true. The spinning
So
bowl
two
is
casseroles.
nightmarish.
Two, yeah.
Very, very good. Very good
Nice.
tip. Yes. Laura?
Gosh. Oh, okay. My favorite way to line a tin is a really old school way. I spray with a little bit of oil, or you can do butter and just like dust some flour in it. And I don't think that like I think like people like get all like uptight about lining a tin properly with paper and all that, but like, generations of people have been baking with just a little bit of oil and a little bit of flour, and I think like that will get you out of a sticky situation most times.
Mm-hmm.
There's a caveat there, most times. Not for chiffon cakes though. That's my favorite way to line a tin.
Perfect.
My baking advice is listen to Laura about your buttercream and learn buttercream tips from Laura and Loic. I've got two buttercream tips down from this recipe. So follow them and get the baking tips. And then my other one for my baking tip for Bake Off, if someone's applying for Bake Off, is just to enjoy every part of the process as its own experience. The application process, you learn so much about baking, you meet amazing people, enjoy that for what it is. If you are lucky enough to get on the show, enjoy the writing process for the recipes as an experience and a learning part. Enjoy filming it as a crazy cool thing that you get to do, and then enjoy watching it with friends and family after. So every part of it, no matter how far you get, it's an individual, amazing experience. So that's my advice for anyone going through that route.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As our friend Stephen Levitt has as his mantra for when he was on the show and continues through in his life, find the joy. Yeah. It seems like you've all done that, which is great.
Yeah.
And thank you for letting us vicariously live through you and hear your stories. If you had to sum up your bake-off experience in one word, what would that word be?
For me, it'd be just joy. That's it.
Love it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, joyful. It was pure joy.
Maybe for me, it would be sharing. Just like Peter said, like I shared this experience with the other bakers when I was on the tent, but like afterwards, like watching the show in my hometown, like with my community, like some people say like, oh, how is it going to be to like relive the experience through the show? And like I was like, that's not how I view it. Like that's an extension. That's just the next step of the experience. And that was also awesome. So it's a shared experience.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you for sharing your experiences with us today and with our audience. And like, seriously, what a great pleasure and honor it has been to spend some time with you all. And yeah, we look forward to seeing what's new next for you and your journeys. I know, Peter, you have 2 books already out that people can find on Amazon or different.
They might still be kicking about.
Yeah.
I think they're in a warehouse somewhere now.
But
I'm sure we can find them on Amazon.
Yeah, well, wherever your baking journeys take you next, and I'm sure it'll be for bigger, brighter, more amazing things to come for all of you. We look forward to sharing and joining along on that ride with you. So thank you again, and yeah, we're
Thank you for getting us together.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been so fun. Thanks so much for having us.
So much fun. I hope that we continue to chat with the 3 of you individually because I have a feeling we have a lot to learn from all of you. But yeah, Loïc, you've been a friend of the show since the beginning. You were our very first guest. And so it's lovely to have you back.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you all so much. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, no matter what time it is and how late it's getting to be or how early it still is. And we look forward to talking to you all again soon.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to
you
that
both.
technical with you.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Definitely. Yes, don't forget. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful
Thank you so
day.
much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Happy
Bye.
baking.
It was so much fun.
I was fangirling the whole time. I mean, come on. Loïc, Laura, Peter. Seriously? I mean, one of those on their own would have been amazing. To have all 3 of them in the same chat at the same time.
There wasn't too much overlap either. You know how sometimes it's harder when we have more than one guest because it's like, how do we equally distribute the questions and how do we make sure everybody has a chance to answer? How do we make sure we're not all running over each other? Because of course you get a bunch of bakers in a conversation and we're like, and oh yeah, and it brings up other conversations and other memories and other thoughts and ideas. But it really flowed really smoothly. I feel like they're so respectful of each other. They pay real attention to what the other people are saying. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that we had the opportunity to chat with all of them.
Oh, same here. And yeah, again, we say how lucky we are to be able to do what we do day in, day out. And today was like no exception to that. This baking community has been so wonderful and so supportive. And there's just so much love for everybody all along the way. If you love to bake or if you're interested in baking, you're part of the community. And people have so much time and energy to share and wisdom to share.
Yes.
with everybody. And that's what I really appreciate about everybody's just there cheering each other on. And it's not a competition. It's about,
No.
propping everybody up. It's about, working
Making a great
together.
TV show.
Making a great TV show, making a great bake, right? That's
Mhm.
what the goal is just trying to make sure that everybody gets in there, gets in their
Mhm.
kitchens, explores and tries different things and stretches themselves. And that's at the core of what the Bake Off series is all about,
Yeah,
really.
for sure. Yeah, it really is. And we have been able to do this for another season.
Ah,
And now
so
we get a break.
we do get a little bit of a
I
break.
don't know if we want a break, but it is helpful because, there's a lot involved and invested in doing a podcast like this. We don't get a lot of return on investment, but we are investing a lot of our time and energy. So taking a little bit of that for the holiday season and just to be with our family and friends, and then we'll come back refreshed for season
Yes.
4 with some brand new guests. Thank you once again to Peter Sawkins, to Laura Fu, to Loic, who I'm still not going to say your last name because I don't want to mangle it. You have given us so much in this episode and just in your time and investment in even arranging to do this with us. So we're so grateful that you came along for the ride. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Same with all of you out there. Thank you so much for joining us for the Baking Scraps ride. Christina and I are so grateful
We
for
really
you
are.
and for each other.
Absolutely. And we wouldn't do this without all the love and support that we get from you throughout the year as well. And we're so very much appreciative of all of that. And yeah, we can't wait to do season 4.
Can't wait for it.
Yes. And in the meantime, have a wonderful holiday season with your loved ones. Get in your kitchen, do some fun baking, maybe try something new that you haven't tried before. And if you're having some challenges or you don't know where to start, the baking community is a wonderful resource. So reach out,
Yes.
ask the questions, see how we can all help each other become better bakers. And and have fun.
Have fun. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, happy all the different things that there are to celebrate at this time of year. Happy New Year. And we will see
Yes.
you in 2026.
Yay.
Wow. Thank you,
Until
everybody.
then,
Until then,
happy
happy
baking.
baking.